Welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Our guest, Erie County Controller Stefan Mihailu, and we're talking about our county budget and waste in spending and some of the things, some of the examples that we can come up with that your tax dollars are paying for. Give us an example or two of some of the things that might not be too popular with some of the taxpayers out there.
Excellent you mentioned cookies, because one of the things that we're proposing is we conduct an audit of inmate health care, inmates who are at the holding center. And I think inmates should have a skin in the game. Just because you're in prison doesn't mean you should get free health care. We need to provide for people who are behind bars, but taxpayers spend $8 million a year on inmate health care. And so I have a proposal right now, it's got to pass the state assembly and Senate and be signed by the governor, but to charge inmates a copay for their health care. If they can afford to buy cookies and candy
and power tools
and power tools and certain state facilities, not county facilities, that they should pay for some of their health care.
So if they're able to go to the RX and buy junk food, why can't they do a copay?
Absolutely. And we're not even talking a punitive copay for inmates. We're talking $5. We have to pay, all of us have to pay copays for our prescriptions, for our health care, and I strongly believe that inmates should as well. We've also conducted an audit of the Erie County Legislature. Now, I encouraged them when Republicans took over about 2 years ago. I said, look, you folks should audit yourselves as well. I did it in my office, you should too. And so we looked and we found that taxpayer dollars, in many cases, we had a district office where legislators have their offices out in the community. The lease was up. They were no longer using it, but taxpayers in the legislature, they kept paying for all the utilities and the cable bill.
How does that happen?
People not paying attention and asleep at the switch.
So
literally.
Someone is just going to automatically send a check out because there's a bill in front of them.
Correct. Even though the district office had been closed, they were still paying the bills.
That's insane.
It gets worse. There were copiers. The legislature, they were leasing copiers for all their different district offices. And so after the lease expired, we couldn't even find one of the copiers that they were paying for years. After leases expired on copiers, the legislature continually just kept paying the bill because the automatic invoice was in every single month.
Are there many programs, do you think, that just don't exist anymore that we're still paying for?
We found that to be the case with the legislature. Absolutely. I mean, the county is good. The one thing they are good about is when people pass away, that we make sure that we're not paying benefits for dead people like we saw in the city of Buffalo.
Yeah.
I mean, we check monthly with the IRS and with and Social Security to make sure we don't do that. But yeah, at the legislature, I mean, they were even putting in invoices. They hired a professional photographer that taxpayers paid for to come in and take pictures of legislators during every session. No bid contract.
Why?
Because they wanted, politicians wanted pictures of themselves. And they literally paid a private photographer to come in and take pictures of legislators during meetings.
Now, when I was growing up in Buffalo, there were rumors that the city of Buffalo was still paying a gentleman to come around and light the gas streetlights. If there were programs that were so obsolete and the county was doing it, how would you come across that? How would you find things out like that?
Well, it's a great question. Right now, what we're doing, we've contracted with a private sector firm. It's the first time in county history we're doing it. It's called a risk assessment. We put it out to bid to get the best possible price for taxpayers. So Freed Maxick, they won the bid. They were the most reasonable price for taxpayers. So we're working with our public sector auditors, are working with the private sector accounting firm, and the first ever risk assessment is being done right now as we speak in Erie County government. So these private sector accountants are coming in and they're meeting with every single department, and they're basically grilling employees saying, okay, where is their waste, or where do you think we can do a better job? And so that's a good way that we're doing it. We also have a whistleblower hotline. If you go to erie.gov.gov and go to the controller's webpage, we have a whistleblower hotline, and we receive a lot of information from whistleblowers. Great example of that. Right now, and it's been very public, so I'm not speaking out of school here, but we're conducting a review of the Buffalo Urban League. They contract with the county to perform some social service functions. Whistleblowers came forward and alleged that, look, they're billing you for hours that they never worked. So what we found is that sometimes within a 24-hour period, one 24-hour period, the county paid out for, I think it was close to 160 and 180 hours of work for one person in a 24-hour period. So obviously,
and no one catches this.
We did, thanks to whistleblowers that came forth through us. So we're trying to be proactive by conducting a risk assessment to see where our risks are within county government. But we really do also rely on employees and people in the know to reach out to us and let us know about things.
And all of this money that you're saving and all of these steps that you're taking to move us in a smart financial area.
We are.
What's happening then with the money you're saving? Where's it going?
Great question. As I mentioned before, during the dark days of the red-green budget crisis, I mean, the county literally was in debt to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Now we have close to $100 million in our unassigned fund balance. So a lot of it goes to our fund balance, our rainy day account. By law, we have to keep a certain percentage in our fund balance. I believe the last number was in the mid $50 million range. So we're close to $100 million. We're in good shape. I'm not anti-spending within government. We have to provide certain services to keep people safe, keep our roads safe, but I'm against wasteful spending.
You're against paying someone in a 24-hour period for 150 hours worth of work?
And multiple times.
Right.
And so we are going to be seeking aggressively the refunding of that money in many cases. And a lot of times when we conduct these audits, we'll come in and we'll offer suggestions, and departments will actually implement them. We found in one case, we audited our Parks Department in my first year in office, and by law, we were supposed to be charging, the county was supposed to be charging certain portions for services at the golf courses for sales tax that the county itself wasn't charging sales tax for. In one of our reviews, we saw that Erie County, and this is so outrageous, some of our gasoline taxes are some of the highest in the country. Why? We found in our review, and this should make people mad, it makes me mad, we're actually taxing tax on a gallon of gasoline.
That's not legal.
It's outrageous.
That's illegal.
It's absolutely
outrageous.
outrageous.
So was it addressed? Is it still happening?
Yeah, we actually put that forth in our review in the legislature right now. There's legislation before the legislature that's going to basically try to eliminate the local portion of our sales tax on gas for the county portion of it. And I fully support that. Yeah, it's the deeper we dig sometimes, your mouth hangs open at some of it.
Now, one of the stories that I've done in the past, and some of the agencies that I've worked with in doing news, agencies sometimes have a budget that they are allocated for a fiscal year, and they get to the end of the year, and if they haven't spent that budget,
they lose the money.
They lose the money.
Use it or lose it.
And then the next year, they basically don't get as much money because they didn't go through their budget.
Which encourages them to spend something they might not
I've been
need.
with a law enforcement agency, and in the last day or two of their budget, they're out there giving out $100 bills to informants because they don't know what else to do with their money, and if they don't give it away, they're going to get cut the next year.
It doesn't get banked.
And I think it goes to that, again, having that culture and mindset of just being responsible. Like at the congressional level, I know certain members of Congress, if they're in that position where they have money to spend, certain congressmen and congresswomen actually give their employees bonuses so that they basically blow through their budget, but others actually give their money back. I think it's all about being a good and responsible steward of taxpayer dollars, having a conscience and just knowing where your values are. I mean, I grew up the son of Ukrainian immigrants. I mean, and my grandparents survived the Holodomor, the wheat famine in Ukraine. So we never wasted food. We never wasted anything in our household. And that's why I like to think that I try to be the best controller as I can to use those examples from my family and my grandparents to be a strong steward of taxpayer dollars and not spend money like gangbusters at the end of the fiscal year, to say the least.
And I suppose we can only hope that we continue to have this type of oversight and this type of what's such logical thinking happening fiscally here in the county. And in an ideal world, right, this will spread to the state level, and then
certainly hope
maybe
so.
Someday our pipe dream is that it'll eventually crawl all the way up to the national level.
Well, what a novel idea,
right? And then you sent us some information about some crazy costs locally, like a library lobbyist.
Yes, it was, and that was one of the audits that we performed. The library wanted to create what's called a special taxing district. They basically wanted to be independent from government and become an entity like a school district, so that people can actually vote on the library budget every single year. No bid contract. They hired some hotshot public relations specialists out of New York City, some hotshot lawyers, hundreds of thousands of dollars to lobby for them to create a special taxing district. And not only to lobby, but we actually paid the bills, the county did, for these lobbyists every time they came to town. Movies in their hotel room, dinners, snacks. Taxpayers paid for all of that for the library. Now, can you imagine how many books, thousands of books and
could have been
thousands of programs
purchased with that $350,000
for children and
Yeah.
their families?
Yeah.
Instead, lawyers and lobbyists, and they actually dropped their idea for a special taxing district because nobody wanted it. They thought it was outrageous because they can go to the voters with however many % increase in their library special tax, and if voters approved it, that's how much taxes would go up.
And once it's approved, good luck getting it back.
Exactly. Well, like the temporary sales tax.
Yeah, temporary
Can be
my,
started
you know
on
what.
that.
Well, we will be back with more on the future of Erie County's finances. And as we go to break, here's some information on how to connect with the Erie County Comptroller's Office.